hot take, but I almost want to put him in A tier. I'm gonna put him in A tier. You can't tell me what to do. I think I'm gonna get crucified when I say this. Happy birthday Hokazono and happy birthday Kagurabachi. You're now both officially a whole 1 year old. 50 chapters, 3 amazingly written villains, and 50 weekly threads of me yapping that you people genuinely still read. To celebrate the series reaching universal popularity and the 1 year anniversary, no, I won't draw. And no, I won't cosplay as a Sazanami, even though I definitely could. Instead, I have taken it up on myself to rank every single Kagurabachi character. And you heard me right, every single one. Like with any tier list, the link is public and I'll leave it in the description section below. And like with any tier list video, I'll also have timestamps for every single character rating because you can imagine this video is going to be hellishly long. And while I'm sure this will bite me in the nuts later, apart from this introductory section, I am going zero script for this one. With that being said, grab a drink, grab some food, and let's get this started. Before I can start ranking though, we need to establish some criteria. Your criteria might differ from mine, but I really like to go into detail on why I feel the way that I feel. So in order to do that, I am going to use these 3 main categories. 1 is design. Their place in the world, visual design, possible thematics, and just overall vibes and feel. 2 is the relative relevance to the story. You'll see what I mean by that in just a second. And 3 is how they impact the narrative, or in a more compact term, their writing. All categories will be ranked together to form a score between F all the way up to S tier. Instructions clear? Good. Hajimaruze. And here we are, the Kagurabachi character tier list. Let's just get right into it, because there is a lot of characters. I mean, look at this fucking thing. Now, because I said every single one, if I possibly happen to miss one, I am going to. Because I spent over 4 hours rereading all of Kagurabachi and saving screenshots for every single NPC. And I can tell you, there are, as of right now, which is chapter 45, 183 NPCs. But I do admit, I did not include a lot of characters that didn't have faces. Because for me, in order to properly judge a design, I need to see their face. There are some characters that don't have faces, but have enough clothing to judge their design just by that merit alone. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, here is where I get to the point about relative relevance, because chapter 1 has a lot of random characters. In fact, all of these characters are random. They're just NPCs. And so I can't rate them the same way I would rate Hakuri, Kunishige, or Shiba. I have to rank these characters based on who they are, what function they serve, the environment that they live in. And starting with chapter 1, the Yakuza that started it all. Black suit, white t-shirt. This is more often than not the Yakuza principle. Every single character follows this same idea. Maybe they have a tie, maybe they have a different haircut, maybe they have facial hair, maybe they don't. The base outfit will always be a black suit and a white undershirt. Now, I feel like characters that have more than that give more value to the story and to their environment. And because this guy is literally just a black suit and a shirt, he's definitely going in F tier. Next, we have this one. For Yakuza standards, much different than usual. And I like that, so I'm gonna put him in E tier. This guy, F tier. This guy, also F tier. See, this one's interesting, because in Kagurabachi specifically, Yakuza are designed to be men. And what women do, they hold these positions of servitude, or like Sojo's geisha, who I also have in this tier list. And this one is the first one that we see. And for that, I have to give it bonus points. Yeah, just F tier. Then we have some more civilians. And I like the color dichotomy between civilian and Yakuza, because it's very clear who is who. You have casual t-shirts, some jewelry. We have bald guy over here.
Don't bother me.
I didn't call you Baldy.
You'll see throughout this tier list, bald people barely exist in Kagurabachi. And I can't decide if that's a good or a bad thing. But again, I don't think it deserves any higher than an F tier. And now, this is where I feel like NPCs just start changing in such a varying degree that it kind of becomes impressive. This guy literally looks like Chihiro if he grew a mustache. I kind of want to put him in the E tier just because of that. Nah, I just can't. I can't. I'm not going to spend too much time on each individual one, only the ones I feel are worth mentioning. And here you have the first actual character of importance, which is the victim that Shiba and Chihiro save. Now, back in chapter 1, I know we're going real back with this one, I thought that saving this guy would become a catalyst for their involvement in the main crew. In fact, a lot of people thought that, and then nothing happens. He does look like Kazane, and I fuck with Kazane. E tier. In a series like Kagurabachi, where everyone's a yakuza, everyone's a ninja, a kunoichi, samurai, it's such a drastic difference to see a schoolgirl outfit. I don't like it more than the Buddhist one, but it raises a lot of intrigue in my mind. E tier. Mud sorcerer, trauma sorcerer, Oni mask. These characters accompany the first showcase of the war. And now, remember, some NPCs also have writing to them. And specifically, with the Seite War, with that incredible panel, A Scene Like From Hell, the guy who says it is the Mud Sorcerer, and that's in his favor. And I think, from that perspective alone, we are going to do something like that. Then we have Trauma Brother's other brother, which I kind of just don't give a fuck about. It's just a worse version. It just doesn't hit the same. Even if, arguably, the picture of the flower field looks cooler than the dinner scene with Kunishige. Next one. This one's actually one of my favorites. The guard of the museum for the Kunishige exhibition. Even such a NPC, who most people probably never even paid attention to, is given the proper attire, the proper stick, and the proper hat. When people say Kagurabachi is cinematic, they obviously talk about the camera angles and the fight scenes and the paneling, but I just really think the final touch of sublimity is just the outfits, the designs. Without designs, everything just feels so barren. We have some classic civilian attire here. It's just pretty casual. You'll see a lot of black hair, which is, well, it's a style choice, obviously, but also it's good to know that black hair is the most common in a country like Japan. So most of these characters will just have black hair. Now, one of my favorite NPCs in the whole series. This one, C tier. Let's just think about this for a second. Someone just murdered 4 people in your bathhouse. But when confronted, she asks, what is it that you want? The fact that this grandma survives, I don't even think the anti-cloud gouger team could do that. For these next 2, for some reason, the man thinks he can't draw women. But look at these 2. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, top V tier, easily. So these 2 have a very iconic line, and once you read more of Kagurabachi, you realize that the idea of being caged and being hopeless is a common theme. So again, it works in their favor to have that writing, and I think that already puts them in D tier. Now this is a good one. Actually, you know what, I was gonna say that this is a good one, but it bothers me that we're introduced to what look like twin Sazanami, and I hate the fact that we get nothing from them. Wow, that's an impressive design. Definitely top of F tier. But they just don't go above F tier. They are top of the grade sorcerers, and they get fodderized. Off screen, you have a cool design, that's about it. This guy gets special points, because he's the first guy we see Tofku actually hit. And I like that, because we need more Tofku material. This guy's funny, I like his expression. He's listening. Look at this. This is a guy who is locked in. This one's a really good one. In fact, this is so good, I'll even put it in D tier. This is a manifestation of how Tenri sees the outside world, or simply put, how Tenri sees the world that isn't the Sazanami. Merged in black, dressing like any Yakuza, and with that evil grin. It's such a good characterization of what the Yakuza are. I don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. I know it's every character rated, and by definition, I am rating every single character. I just don't care for a lot of them. So, you know what? For this one specifically, we'll talk about it. The Rakuzaichi, as said by the narration in chapter 44, is the crucible of frenzy. And I really like how so many of these are showcased with an ecstatic expression. It shows just how riled up these people get for the past 200 years. It's that collective idea of what frenzy looks like that I really admire, and what I really think Hokazono did perfectly. And that is 187 NPCs ranked. Why did I do this? I don't know, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. Welcome to the main event. If you watched the first part of this video, then you would obviously know why all of these characters are ranked the way they are. And if you haven't, here you have them anyway. But now begins the real rating. And as you can see, everything here is obviously in chronological order. I also decided to not only take the goldfish, but their manifested spiritual forms. So you can compare them, rate them, and decide which one is better or worse. Starting off with the main man himself, Chihiro Rokuhiro. So, hot take, but... right? That's a pretty hot take, right? The main character of such a good series having so many high caliber moments that compete in the new gen sphere for the best moment in manga. How do you rate Chihiro as anything but S tier? Now, is he the best S tier? We'll see. But is he, by definition, the hallmark of the show? One of the best characters, sequence after sequence, event after event. He just keeps on getting better. This is the 1 year anniversary. Imagine him in 3 years. I am so excited. And with Chihiro come his compatriots, Kuro, Nishiki, Aka. For Kuro, he is what I think is the perfect B tier. Obviously, they don't have character, they're just an extension of Chihiro. But specifically with Kuro, I like that he represents Chihiro the most. So not only is he said to ward off evil, it also obviously has the black, which is Chihiro's motive. And that black also reflects his mindset of protecting the innocent and defeating the evil. But I think I'm gonna get crucified when I say this. Aka is just a cooler fish than Kuro. If you haven't been keeping up with fandom memes, Aka has probably the least screen time out of any Kagurabachi character ever. In fact, it's become an ongoing running joke that even Chihiro doesn't care about Aka. But for me specifically, Aka and its spiritual manifestation are so fucking beautifully drawn that beyond thematic relevance, its use in the story, I just love it. And Nishiki is the exact opposite. It's used so much that its power just doesn't resonate with me as much as it did at first. Moving on, we have Kunishige. Obviously, as the story goes on and his crimes are unveiled and you start to see little by little that this goofy 50-year-old man might not be as smart as you think, might not be as good as you think, and just shrugging it off. It's so entertaining to me, but at the same time it's obviously horrible. What I also love is that even if Kunishige is this legendary hero in Japan, that he looks like a normal guy. He has some of the most basic Asian genetics that a man can have. He's just a very regular, traditional guy who just happens to be Oppenheimer. And for that, he's better than Chihiro. I don't know how many people are gonna agree, because there are few characters in the series that will span across the whole series and affect every single character in one way or another. You have Kiora, you have Sojo, which is very obvious, Hyuki, which just wants to keep all the blades in safeguard. Just every single character, every single major character has something to do with Kunishige. His effect on the world is impeccable, and I don't think a character like that is going to be topped. Next up, Shiba. I'm really sorry to every Shiba fan out there. He's not better than B tier. Again, I keep on going back to my criteria because it's so important to remember. Shiba does not have much writing. He has a cool design. I like the fact that he's from Kansai, but he is purposefully being kept a mystery and not offering anything of any substantial value to the narrative. I like that. The only thing you can say is his very obvious parental guardianship over Chihiro. Sometimes you might look at it like a sidekick type deal, but from the beginning, Shiba has been Chihiro's basically uncle. And after Kunishige died, basically his parent. So, this one's good. The first Hishaku we ever see. He is also the most irrelevant Hishaku that we see. Be that as it may, how do I rank a Hishaku who has 2 scenes of screen time and barely any dialogue? Has to be the top of C tier. He's from the Hishaku, so that's bonus points. But at the same time, he has no screen time. I almost want to put him in D tier, but for the sake of that Hishaku affiliation, I cannot. Hinao is fucking awesome. Her design is impeccable. The mix between a gyaru and a suit and tie, she's like the perfect dichotomy between the modern and the ancient Japan. The fact that you can be a gyaru and a business girl at the same time, her design is fantastic. One of the best in the series. I really love the genius battle system, or whatever she calls it. I just kind of hope that she gets a gun. Char, it hurts me not to put her in S tier. The competition is just so tough, but she just isn't Chihiro level. She just isn't. There's so many beautiful thematics and lessons to learn from Char's story, but for right now, I just have to put her in A tier. And it burns my soul to say that, but she's just not. Also, you know what? I am going to deduct points, but it won't change my rating. Why does she still not have a fucking color page? Why? Why? Sojo. A lot of people in the fandom, and for good reason, think Sojo is the best character in the whole series. And I get that. His impact on Chihiro, his view on the enchanted blades, his fanatic desire to be with Kunishige and understand him. You know, all those buzzwords. I get it. But especially as we've got into the Rakuzaichi, and we'll get to that in a little bit, Sojo is not even better than Chihiro. That still means he's top 3, at least for now, but he's not the best character. For Sojo's dragon, it's a large compartment of Sojo's symbolic character writing and tie-ins to China. Without the dragon, the Cloud Gouger would not hit as hard as it does. In fact, I would almost say that the dragon is the very being of the Cloud Gouger itself. And for that, I think it's better than Kuro. Azami. As of right now, worse than Shiba in every single aspect. That doesn't mean I don't love him. I absolutely do. I love his design. I love his mannerisms. But from a design point, a writing point, and a story, narrative, progression point, he's just a worse Shiba. C tier. Worse than Hinao, actually. If I possibly happen to miss one, I am going to... I forgot Daruma! Right, Daruma. He's the first opponent, sorcerer opponent, that Chihiro fights, and he's then forward used as an explanation of how future sorcery mechanics work. So yeah, I really like Daruma. He's a serial killer. He's borderline a terrorist, but I really like his character writing. Enough to put him higher than this Hishaku guy is. Daruma's sister, however, he has to go into F tier. She's just pointless. And on the opposite side of pointless comes Char's mother. If Char is an A tier character, then Char's mother is an extension of Char in ways that Char cannot yet understand. And for that, I think she deserves a C tier. Having been in Char's shoes, which is a young girl being chased for her abilities, but then escaping, settling down, having a child, living the adult life of a Kyonagi, it's an interesting perspective, and it creates a fuller picture than if we never had it. A lot of the pieces that make Char's mother who she is are already present in Char. Hagiwara Ikuto, you get to see him first, and you think he's kind of a jackass. And so then they confront Sojo, and his first thought is, this will make it easier for Chihiro. And that opened my eyes. The series is trying to encapsulate Hagiwara as the personification of a leader. That's also why I think Hokazono left him alive. I really like him. I don't think he's better than C tier. And then we go to this probably the most important Kamunabi member, Kazane Machi. For some background, Machi is the name of a character in an earlier one-shot, Roku no Meiyaku. In Kagurabachi, Kazane takes a much different approach than in the one-shots. First of all, Roku and Machi are said to be childhood friends who were orphaned, then recruited by like a street gangster mob. And in Kagurabachi, he is a new recruit who gets pissy when other people show talent. If you've ever studied tropes, usually a character who gets annoyed at other people's talents isn't jealous, but the exact opposite. And that is exactly what Kazane Machi represents. He's clearly held in high level of importance for the higher-ups mentioned by name Kazane's Kaichi attack. And it gives us this perspective of, okay, this thing matters. And if Kaichi matters, that also means Kazane matters. He's just not better than D tier. He's top of D tier, not any better. Next, we have Makoto Kasahara. I told you, you are worthless if you enter the E or F tier. Because how fucking can you? Shiyumi and Kugara. Shiyumi's name in specific is more like an homage to Buddhist culture. And for that idea alone, even if she has a really good design that I can't believe was wasted, I have to put D tier. For Kugara especially, I just really like the dichotomy between his natural body status and when he activates his sorcery. Next, we get to every single Kamunabi higher up, or at least the ones we can assume to be every single one. It's really hard to rate a design when that design has nothing to do with anything that you could remotely connect the series to. For example, I really like this guy. He's clearly the mature, old leader of the Kamunabi, but his design is just kind of worthless. He has a cool beard and a cool coat, but that's just it. In fact, I would rate them lower than Kugara and Shiyumi. Every single one of them. Actually, every single one of them, apart from Mr. Gremlin. Because this fucking guy has something that I could have never expected in Kagurabachi, which are dwarves. This guy is no longer than 2 feet. He has no height, which I think is on purpose. I genuinely think that if he's to have any sorcery, it's something related to size. I have to give him top of D tier. We are entering a Kamunabi arc. I wish I could have waited recording, but I know I'm speaking to the future because I know these characters will get more screen time. They'll probably get names, they'll probably get a color page, but as we know that every single one of these are going to die, I need to rate them for what they are right now, what I think of their design right now. And the old guy, already I really like that because the Seitei War was 18 years ago, that we have some old characters. Now, for the girl, taking things as they are, she looks really young. Was she a child soldier? Could Kunishige actually recruit children and give them enchanted blades? I don't know, but I really like her design. Next, we have the peace sign. That's pretty much it. And for my favorite one, which actually you can get so much out of just by the design alone. For one, he's wearing a tuxedo and a tie. Does that mean he's a Yakuza? Or does that mean he's a Kamunabi worker? But scars have meaning. There's a famous myth called Zatoichi, which tells a story about a blind eye swordsman who goes around the city gambling and saving people from disaster. Considering Hokazono wants to reflect the cool Japan aesthetic, this guy is probably the Kagurabachi version of Zatoichi. Scars in Kagurabachi have meaning. C tier. And now we enter the Rakuzaichi. Hakuri is fantastic. I'm not trying to make some hot take here and say that Hakuri is F tier. Everyone knows he's amazing. But I feel like To really understand why Hakuri is so good, you just have to reread the arc. He is a prince who loses his castle. And now, with the power of Chihiro and wanting to destroy that figurative castle, he begins his revenge. And that's the thematic here. Revenge. Chihiro's revenge is against the Hishaku. But for Hakuri, his revenge isn't one specific person, it's an idea. It's a tale of familial abuse. It's a tale of horrible moral principle. But at its core, it's a tale of a son seeking his father's acceptance. Just like Chihiro. He's S tier. He's just S tier. Hyuki is insane. I don't have much to say about Hyuki. I genuinely think she's one of the most undercooked characters in the series so far. But even with her very limited screen time in the Rakuzaichi, she has made a dent. Not just in the characters like Chihiro and Hakuri, but just the story in general. Taking these enchanted blades, instead of regarding them as these glorious weapons of war that saved Japan from disaster, she thinks that no matter what, every single action should be in service of a greater purpose. The nation can be wrong. The nation can be cruel. The nation can have these limits. And I think Hyuki embracing, representing human limits in a scene where you shouldn't be able to have any she's just another S tier. It's just a reality. For Tofku, I can't be that excited. Like, he's okay. He's just a cool symbolic idea put into government shoes. Extra points for being in the one shot, just like Hyuki with Kaoru and Kuro. His writing, Tofku is just the Hyuki sidekick, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a thing. Sazanami Kyora. If you've been in the community, you have probably seen what is the most large-scale shift from preferring Sojo as an antagonist to preferring Kyora. There's been a lot of talks about what is it that he does, what values does he represent, what idea does he try to push in Kagurabachi. But I feel like no matter what your opinion of him is, we're starting to see a pattern where people just realize Kyora's greatness. And even if Kyora's dead, I hope we can continue to proceed, as I am going to proceed to also put him in S tier. Now, where in S tier? Is he better than Kunishige? Sadly, no. Is he better than Chihiro? Personally, I think so. Unless Chihiro absolutely slams it out of the park, he is in my top 2 characters in Kagurabachi. Sword Saint, just as he is, zero dialogue, but characterized by the Shinuchi. His sword is doing all the speaking. Sword Saint, you are B tier. Already B tier, you are probably gonna be S tier by the end of 2nd year. And because we rate the Sword Saint, we obviously also rate the Shinuchi and its abilities. Visually, I have to dock points from the fact that we don't actually see their physical manifestations. Why is this? Is it because the Shinuchi hasn't been properly wielded? Is it because it hasn't been properly unsheathed? Is it because it's just meant to look like that? I don't know. I want to see what I'm seeing. I'm saying E tier. On to the Toll. Here's my problem. You are going to introduce the Toll, which are Kyora's pretty much right-hand men. His elite group, his best defense, and a historical landmark. Why do 2 of them not have names? Is there any reason? Because the only reason I can think of is the setup of chapter 44. Shiba tells them to go home, go raise the kids, and to go make the Sazanami a better family. It's possible that we might get their names later, but I think not having them right now is so bad. So bad. They're F tier. This is gonna be a hot take, but they're F tier. For Souya and Tenri, they are what I call the 3 sides of Kyora. We have the Hakuri, which is the compassionate. Because Kyora isn't brutal. He has compassion specifically towards his own children that bring forth the value that he expects. Then we have the Souya, the abusive, borderline manipulative, fierce, strong, powerful, scary side. And then we have Tenri, which is the honoring, traditional, wanting to respect specifically his own father. That, to me, speaks of how Kyora isn't just himself, that Tenri and Souya are extensions of who Kyora really is. For Souya specifically, he brings to the table an incredible abusive brother plotline, which is fueled by a reason that we don't quite really ever get to fully understand, but we understand it enough. Which is why, when we get the fake dinner scene, you really see what type of brother Souya should have been. Tenri reflects the honoring side of Kyora, the one that pushes tradition, pushes the idea of the Sazanami and the Rakuzaichi, while also having one objective that they value more than anything else, making their father proud of their actions. You see this not just in Tenri, you also see this in Kyora. It shows it has been a 200-year-long cycle of rinsing and repeating the same mistakes, all because you just wanted to make your father proud. Comparatively, Tenri had more character-driven interaction and meaningful writing compared to Souya. So for that, I think I put Souya in top of C tier and Tenri in top of B tier. Better than Shiba. Mr. Inazuma and his sister. Mr. Inazuma literally just represents the righteous side of the Cloud Gouger. The one that protects the civilians, only strikes the evil. It is a recontextualization, a rewriting of history to make the Cloud Gouger stand for something that it originally didn't. There should be more Cloud Gougers writing than it is Mr. Inazuma's, but it's also his chapter that brings this whole idea to the table. So for that, easy B tier. And for the final 5. First of all, we have the 2 Kamunabi bidders. I don't really have much to say. I really like the girls' design, but apart from that, they are the Yakuza equivalent of fodder. They're just the bidding team. What does that even mean? Why couldn't Hyuki be on the bidding team? I don't know. And for the final 3, the 2 that have actual substance and one that doesn't. So let's just get the one that doesn't out of the way. Kyora's wife is purposefully left unnamed, and it is for the simple reason that she does not matter. Like any of the slaves in the Rakuzaichi, they have no names because they're just merchandise. But I really like the idea that the way she is framed as a product number is by never actually even fully showing her. Constantly using text bubbles to block her, not even showing how well she's doing, only hospital bed and the saline IV drip that was foreshadowed earlier. It shows that she's just an unfortunate person who was chosen to be the wife, the carrier of Kyora's children. And for that characterization alone, definitely like D tier impressive. But for the ones that really matter, Ice Lady and boss Hishaku himself. Ice Lady is the originator of the idea that merchandise do not get given names. She holds a specific place, a more highly contestable place. Like I said earlier, a lot of her values are reflected onto Char, but it's a different kind of value because Char shows that you will eventually find your peace. This lady has already been through this cycle. She has found her own husband, and that husband sold her out. It's at that moment where she sees no more value in herself. She sees no more reason to live, because even if she was to get out, there is no hope outside the cage. And for that, Icy gets a fucking A tier. She is incredible. And so we arrive at the finale, and there is no character better to discuss the finale than boss Hishaku himself. So first of all, design-wise, his design is very face heavy, and I think that's on purpose, because if you look very deep into his eyes, he has these spirals. Spiral eyes are more often related to control, manipulation, or overwhelming dominance. He dresses up like any other Yakuza, which is totally in his favor, because he should. This is not some kingpin of the world, he's just the leader of the Hishaku, having the flame sigil in his arm, yet looking like he could be anybody else. It showcases that there is no such thing as an NPC. Even if these are all random Yakuza, you could never know if one of these characters would be the next Hishaku, or the next terrorist, or the next sorcerer. You could never know. And that is a part of the brilliance in his design. From a character writing perspective, it's a story told a million times. The leader who kills the main character's family, sister, brother, mother, whatever. But what I specifically think is interesting about him is that he left Chihiro alive. As of right now, we don't really know why, but we are given these very vague descriptions in form of plant analogy that he's too early to cut, not properly grown yet. We know that he wants to wield the Shinuchi, and Azami has hinted at the fact that the Hishaku are ready to make the ground tremble once again like it once was with the Seite War. But all of his goals are completely under shadow. When you get the Shinuchi chapter, where it's revealed that the seal has been broken, it'd be understandable after reading a text like it would take over 10 years to unseal such a thing, that the guy could say something like, it only took me 6 months. But instead, he says 3 years. This establishes a lot of things, but more than anything, it also adds a semblance of reality to his character. That he's not this overpowered supervillain who can break the most significant Kamunabi seal in history in only a week's time. No, it takes its effort. And I really appreciate that. I think it goes a long way in humanizing him. He is still a very, 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 very strong B tier. His dialogue reflects his nature. The fact that he's only willing to talk about what he wants to talk about shows that dominant side. The fact that his tree sorcery is capable of rooting people into their place, quite literally holding them hostage. It's all so very characteristic, and I adore that. You know what? He's better than Shiba. No, he's better than Tenri. This guy is better than Tenri. I almost want to put him in A tier. I'm gonna put him in A tier. You can't tell me what to do. And that is the finale of the tier list.